everyone. My name is Rakeem Brawley, Town of Mooresville here. We're here with Town Manager Randy Heeman, and we're going to discuss some topics today that has been going on around the world. Myself, Antonio McConaughey, Renisha Caldwell, we put together a peaceful protest here in Mooresville that brought about the community, brought a lot of the community out together just to talk about the racial injustice and racial inequalities that's going on not only around the world, but sometimes here in Mooresville, based on the fact of what are we going to do to make things better, what are we going to stand for, and so this just led to a lot more dialogues, panels, and things of that nature based on the fact of us coming together to just have conversations and just talk about some different things. So I have Town Manager Randy here, and we're gonna get into some questions with him. And so I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Rakeem. I'm Randy Heeman. I'm Town Manager. I've been here about 10 months. I've lived in North Carolina about 30 years now in a number of communities, was recently in High Point, very pleased and feel privileged to be here in Mooresville now.
Well, Randy, I just want to first thank you for your time and thank you for being here. I know, with your busy schedule and everything going on with the COVID restrictions and all that. So I first want to thank you for your time. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to kind of do this interview with us. We just want to kind of jump into it and just do some dialogue based on the fact of, one of the first questions that I have for you. Just tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from and
Sure.
what some of the, the things that you bought from, you say you was at High Point.
Sure.
Some of the things that you bought, some of the things that you intend to incorporate here based on the racial injustice.
Thank you. I was in High Point as Assistant Town Manager. One of the things that we have going on in High Point really is a lot of poverty in the core area. In fact, there's an 11 square mile area that's got some of the poorest zip codes in the country. So High Point was unique in that it had a furniture market that came twice a year. Otherwise, it was very little regular employment there.
That's good to know, and that kind of leads into the next question that we have. Based on the topic of conversation, as you talk about a lot of the jobs and the textile industries leaving here, that's where a lot of the people made their income, and so they had to kind of start over from plan A. Just tell us a little bit about, the plan that is for. I know you said some job fairs and some different things. Can you tell us a little bit about just some of the demonstration of how you're gonna, get companies to come in and
Sure.
then just make sure that they're being just equal across the board?
Sure. Well, we have invested heavily in a partnership with the Economic Development Group to create a really nice industrial park here. It's about a third of the way filled up right now. We've got Besco, we've got Tri-Stone out there. We've got somebody looking at it right now that will be coming forth soon with an announcement. So
Niagara's out there, I think.
Niagara's out there. Got a lot of folks out there. So what we've got to do, as I said, is just make sure that we get the word out on those, because a lot of those industrial jobs, I think, are the kind of jobs that can replace the mill jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got to utilize, I think, even more our community college in preparing kids for those jobs. Another thing that we had in Guilford County that I thought was very successful was the Guilford Apprentice Program. There are a lot of young kids out there that are not going to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my son was one of them.
Yeah.
But how do you prepare them? And there's nothing wrong with that, quite frankly. My dad was a bricklayer. My dad's dad was a bricklayer, my grandfather. So, working class is good, and we need that. So I think that if we were to emulate a program that they had in Guilford County, which really what it did was pair up young kids with potential industries that would employ them, was almost like a signing day.
Yeah,
When you go to college and you sit down with your coach and you sign on to a team and it's in the paper. Well, they actually did that with these kids so that when you sign up with an industry that's going to help you, the kids would have a signing day.
Yeah, that's
industrial partner would be there, the kid would be there, and an announcement that they are in this program now. Those relationships turned into a lot of those folks would help the kids get through school,
Yeah.
and help them if they wanted to get a 2-year degree to do that and to go on to build really a pipeline of labor to
Yeah.
work in those businesses. Those are the kind of relationships that we need to create with our industry in order to be successful and make sure local people get jobs. Can't just be a job fair.
Yeah.
We've got to go down, I think, into even the high school level.
And that was my next point. I was going to talk about just the partnership that the town has with, Mitchell College, the Mooresville Graded School District, and just incorporating some of the things that they already do. The high school, they have a lot of technical trade-based programs that you can get into, from HVAC to auto mechanic to, just construction trades. So just kind of partnering with those, with the school district and then Mitchell Community College to kind of start that pipeline would be great.
And, we've got opportunities at the town as well.
Mhm.
When I was in Oxford as town manager, which was prior to High Point, had a wastewater treatment plant operator there that really, Dennis went out of his way to create and nurture relationships
Yeah.
with kids in high school
That's great.
to get them to understand that this is a really good career.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if you get in that career and you start getting certifications, you pretty much write your own ticket.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people aren't exposed to that, so making sure that everybody knows about those opportunities in the town is also important because we've got more and more demand. In fact, there was a statistic that I put out in the manager's report that over the last 10 years, our water usage and sewer usage has gone up 60%.
Wow.
100 million gallons more a month now that we're producing over what we did just 10 years ago.
Wow.
So there's a market there, and we need help.
Indeed. Well, I thank you for that. And then that'll be something that we'll touch more on as we get into it. I think, we're going to have a panel that's going to talk about team leadership and putting some team programs together to just kind of bridge the gap based on, it starts with, the older adults in the community, but we also want to make sure that we're, taking the younger generations and allowing them to understand what it's going to take to be better, not only based on the racial inequality, but also, future trade-based and career-based wise. So I'm looking forward to that. Just looking at another question that we would pose to you is, consider what's been going on around us. I know with us, myself, Raynisha, and Antonio, the incident that happened with George Floyd and everything that went on across the nation, that's what kind of drove this whole, conversation, panel talks, table talks, and things of that nature. So just looking at, what's been going on around us, what will be your, strategic plan to attack it, to make sure that, when you look at the things that have happened, for example, the looting and the protesting, which we had a protest here, and we had close to about 700 people come out, and it was peaceful. What will be your strategic plan to make sure that Mooresville continues to do things the right way and stand firm on racial inequality?
Sure. Well, if you look at, I think there's two parts of any plan, and quite frankly, one part I think we're well underway with, and the second part is really yet to be determined, and it's what we're doing right now. The first part is probably about a year and a half ago, before I even arrived here, the town started looking at diversity and inclusion, and actually came up with a plan for diversity and inclusion that at our last board meeting before last, the town board appropriated funding to hire in a consultant to come in and work with us. And I want to emphasize that while we hired a consultant, it's not to bring somebody in necessarily to tell us what to do. It's to bring somebody in to work with us, to help us make sure that we're doing what we've said we're going to do in our plan, and to make sure that we're being sensitive and that we're setting the kind of targets that we need to set, and being intentional about making sure that our organization reflects the community as a whole.
Yeah.
From a standpoint of racial makeup, and that we are sensitive to everyone that's in our organization. And I will tell you that Tiffany Shelley's leading that charge with a group of employees, and I'm really proud of that. And to me, the key is that's got to be institutionalized. That's got to be part of who we are. I'm a strong believer in really continuing to emphasize your mission and your vision. We're taking our mission and vision statement, and we're also putting on our diversity statement on that now, so that we feel like it deserves its own emphasis. So that'll be on there as well. To answer your question about the other part of this, it really is a community conversation. It's broader than you and I. It's broader than just what the town is doing, and I think that is yet to be determined.
Yeah.
How we do that. I hope the conversations like we've had over the last couple months have been a start to that. But we as a town, businesses, everybody, we've got to come together and decide, is this something that we're going to work on? And if so, how do we do that? And I think that's where we've started that conversation. And but that conversation's got to expand. It's got to expand outside the walls of the meetings that we've had. It's got to expand outside the walls of Town Hall, quite frankly.
And that's a great point, because as I'm looking at the way that we've had the conversation and established, I think the biggest things are core values, and as you said, incorporating your mission statement and some of your other core values of the town of Mooresville as an organization to represent not only the sensitivity, but also to make sure that you put a quality strategic plan, quality product based on the fact of, standing firm for, all local business owners, the school districts, and just all residents of Mooresville. So that's definitely something that we want to, touch bases on more as we get more in depth with the conversation. I think the biggest thing is just understanding, what diversity means, and understanding what, racial inequality and racial equality means based on the fact of, giving people a chance for betterment. As you talked about, you got job-based, trade-based, and just most importantly, like business owners, having them to come in and you have a lot of outside businesses that comes to Mooresville, and the biggest thing is they bring outside workers with them. So that's something that you touched on. So I think we're on the right track. And the biggest thing that I would say is looking at it, how do we stand firm on what we believe as far as what we've started here with you and I, and then how do we, relay that message to the community to make sure that it's understood.
I do think at some point it all starts, we're all human beings and we're all evolving.
Yeah.
I know, if you hear the word white privilege, I can tell you that 5 years ago, I'd be the guy in a meeting that would stand up and say, I don't feel privileged.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't been blessed,
Yeah.
but from a standpoint of, grew up very working class, worked for everything that I had. So, but beginning to understand, when you see studies, went through some of the training with Racial Equity Institute. So when you see, your eyes get open over time. And I think step number one for us may be to have some community-wide discussions with some folks like Racial Equity Institute or others about, what really is going on. I mean, until you walked in somebody's shoes, and I cannot walk in your shoes, so I cannot know what you've gone through. So it's important for us to have our eyes open. And I think, it's unbelievably sad what's happened to cause us to have this conversation. But on the other hand, I think it has opened a lot of folks' eyes to at least look at, well, what do we know or not know about what's going on? And when you see studies, and that's one of the things I like about Racial Equity Institute, we talked about this before, is that when you hear a lot of what they've got to say, it is data driven.
Yes.
It is not touchy-feely.
Yeah.
And that's, as a manager, that's one of the things that you look for. based on studies from Duke University and other folks about lending and about folks applying for jobs with the same credentials. One has a name that sounds white and one has a name that sounds black, and what's the response rate and the differences. So it really opens your eyes to what you might have thought you knew, but you really didn't. So
Indeed.
I think as a community that's one of the things that we need to work on, is just to make sure that we're all understanding, kind of the truth of where that baseline is and where we've been.
Yeah. And some of the things that we've talked about, I know you and I have had conversation about, it starts with building relationships, one, and then communicating, two, because a lot of times when you don't understand and you have lack of knowledge, it hurts you based on the fact of just going based on what you've been taught or what you've seen as, examples. And so I think, just as we get back into the community as far as the COVID restrictions being loosened up, just having some community engagement activities, and then also incorporating other departments within the town of Mooresville, such as the fire, police, and just kind of getting them out to get involved into the fact of community support, and just understanding that, we're here to support you guys. As a community, we're going to stand firm. We're going to believe that, based off whatever has happened in the past, we're moving forward. Looking at the commitment to diversity and inequality, how do you feel that as we move forward with this thing, as far as police brutality and also racial inequality, how do you feel like Mooresville will stand and pair against other local agencies around us, such as Huntersville, Statesville, and things of that nature? And I know that me and you have had conversations based on, we want to be one of the first ones to kind of put it out there on what we stand for and how we're going to, impact change here in Mooresville. And personally, I appreciate that, because, we want to be the one that gets the message out first. And, that's just a part of our competitive nature. That's a part of us just understanding that, at the end of the day, we gotta make sure that we show our community and show them support based on some of the issues that we're facing. So how do you see that faring, and what demonstrations do you have?
I think we fare pretty well in that. It's interesting, and that's another kind of light bulb type moment for us. I had never heard of the 8 Cannot Wait, for instance, and I could tell you that when that came out, what it made us do is look at our practices. What is our practice about chokeholds? What is our practice about all these things? And I'm not going to say that I agreed with everything in there. I think we had this conversation. Mm-hmm. For instance, if we have an officer that's got a car coming toward him that is trying to hit him, the 8 Cannot Wait would say, don't shoot at the car. Well, we're going to allow our folks to defend themselves like that. But most of the other things in there, common sense things that I think we all agree with. And what it comes down to for us is accountability. Yeah. And we have those policies, and we have updated policies, but we've got, I think, a good set of policies as it relates to those issues that will help us treat folks in a humane way. We've got to review film footage. We have just spent a lot of money upgrading our body cams. Mm-hmm. So that actually we can go in now, and if there's 2 officers on the scene, that we can automatically sync those cams so that we can pull the footage from both immediately and compare them and do some things. Chief Camperchani's also got some kind of early detection software that watches kind of what goes in officers' reports and their actions, and will flag, if we need to start watching a little closer, we'll flag. So we've got a lot of those things in place. I do think, kind of the missing piece, or it's not missing, but a piece we can continue to improve on, is that we need to get out in the community more. I'm very proud of some of the things that I see our officers doing now. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I'll get a video. Got one a month or so ago of some officers out there in neighborhoods stop, and they have a race with a guy, foot race. See them every once in a while out playing basketball in the neighborhood. we need to build relationships in neighborhoods and continue to do that. And I think our officers have actually, for the most part, done a pretty good job with that. And we just need to continue to do that, need to do it more. We need to educate, a lot of folks probably don't think about this, but educate on what you do when there's a traffic stop. And I can tell you that I did this with my son.
Yeah.
I told him early on when he was learning to drive what happens when you get pulled over by an officer. So it's not just black folks need to know that, white folks need to know it too.
Yeah,
And I taught him that early on. And we need to continue to talk to the community about those type things and what you do when you're stopped and why. What's an officer thinking?
Yeah.
We've had a fatality here from a traffic stop, so there's a reason that there's a heightened sense when there's a traffic stop, and that there's a lot of caution involved in those. So understanding needs to be on both sides.
Yeah.
Related to that.
And I think you touched on a key point, and that's just educating and giving real life examples, because you never know how you're going to react to a situation until you put in that situation. Looking at it from a standpoint on what's been going on, some of the policies that you've incorporated and changed. I definitely think we're starting to see a lot more officers in the community and building those relationships. One of the things that I would say is that looking at ways that we can maybe diversify and understand the fact that just allowing more minorities to get into not only the police department but the town of Mooresville in general. And I think an understanding comes about, like you said, with Tiffany, and just developing a strategic plan to incorporate whether it be job fairs or just certain ideas to where they know that, hey, these are some of the steps that I need to be taking to head in the right direction. Whether I may be in street department now, what can I do to work my way up, and who can I connect with to just to have conversation. I think it's all about connectivity and communication. If you're in a position where you may not enjoy it as much as or that's not your end result, then who can we connect these individuals with? Such as someone who may be in streets want to move up, and they may want to connect with someone just to ask some questions on what certifications do they need, what's some of the things that they look for in the interview, and just giving them some kind of knowledge to understand what the typical position requires.
Sure.
I think those are some of the things that I've seen on an HR standpoint. It's just, I think we have a program that's where you allow to shadow employees.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a position that you look to hold in the future, or may want to go out there, you can shadow an employee based on the fact of them being in that position now, and them giving you some leeway to the understanding of what's going on. So definitely appreciate that. And then pretty much the last conversation that we want to hold is just giving you an open floor to just ask any questions that you may have, and anything that you want to say to the community. I know with you being a new face here, you always have that stigma of just what's happened in the past, and you can't change the past, but what can you change is the future. And so I'm gonna just give you a couple minutes just to kind of touch base on this is not the old Mooresville. We're moving in a new direction under your leadership, and what do you have to say for the people?
It's interesting you say that, because in the last 20 years our population has doubled.
Yeah.
So we're now bigger than Hickory. Sorry, Hickory.
Competitive edge.
And everybody probably drives in traffic, thinks, wish we
my.
weren't, but
Yes,
that's
yes.
something that we're working on too. It's interesting. One of the things that I frequently say about Mooresville is, if you go back and you look at Mooresville, and actually how small we were not too long ago and how big we are right now. We've got really the core area. We've got the tail of the two zip codes, the 28115 and 117. And when we adopted our long-range plan, it was called the One Mooresville Plan.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things in that plan that hopefully help us grow together. What's not in that plan are the things that we're talking about right now, and getting out in the community and making sure that people feel like they're part of the town. We provide fantastic services, I think, to all parts of the town. I'd put our recreation department up against any. Our library is fantastic. We provide some really good services, and I'm hoping that by that we'll get more people involved and things are going on. We've got a great downtown. We just built a new park over here, Liberty Park, where we can have concerts. And what I really want to see us do is have that sense of community that Mooresville had when it was only 10 or 12,000 in population. I kind of joke with people. Once in a while, I'll find somebody and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm from Mooresville," and I say, "Oh, you're the one," because we've just grown so fast.
Yeah.
But I think we need to. There's a reason people come here, and that is because it's a great place to live. We've got a lot of really good things going on, and we are our own community. We're not a bedroom community to Charlotte. We're actually an importer of jobs, and not an exporter, and we're our own community, and we got a great school system you mentioned. I just want to see us continue to grow together, and I think the way that happens is we just continue to, as a town, make sure that everybody feels welcome and gets treated well.
And I think, just looking at it, and you were actually there, the peaceful protest that we had, that was a symbolic way of just understanding where we're trying to get to and the direction that we're headed. I think when you look at, the number of people that was there and how diversified it was, and just the message that was being brought about, fairness and equal, and, just doing things the right way. And I feel like, regardless of what it is, the inequality, and then how things play out, and the fact of, the George Floyd situation, Breonna Taylor, we always tend to say it doesn't happen here in Mooresville. But the thing is, we got to make sure that we continue to keep those things out of Mooresville. But for most importantly, I just want to say thank you for your time. And on these last little minutes, I want to make sure that we give you the open floor to kind of just introduce some of the things that you see happening now, based on the past and where we're trying to get to with the town of Mooresville. And more so of what does Mooresville look like under your leadership in the next couple of years?
Well, I hope it continues to grow, and I hope it continues to grow for everybody, and that everybody comes along with that, and that opportunity is there for everybody. And it's interesting, we talk about events and relationships and things like that, and it just kind of hit me a minute ago. We were talking about National Night Out, and what I hope will happen to us as a community is that it's not a one-time event.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Relationship. I mean, I'm reminded of the comments about going to church and going to church on Sunday. Well, that's not, everybody that wants to have a relationship with God, you can go to church on Sunday, but the relationship occurs daily.
Indeed.
I think it's the same way with our town, and that the relationships that we have are not going to be events. I really hope that the town employees, police department, fire department, all of us have relationships out in the community on a daily basis, and that I think that's how we build relationship, not necessarily kind of a one-time event, although those events are good, and I want to see us continue to have those kind of things in community. But I want to get out in the community more. And you mentioned a little while ago about COVID, kind of hit. And it's funny you say that, because my first meeting with NAACP, we were all wearing masks. Yeah. We had to postpone that, and likewise, there have been some things in town that I've not been able to get out and see before COVID hit, and I'm anxious to kind of get back out in the community and meet the folks that I am here to serve.
And I think, Randy, when we talk and we look at the situation that we're in, I know we've had the conversation. You come in based off of all the incidents that's going on around us, as we've talked about during the conversation, but you're coming in at a perfect time. And I think we talked about that based off the conversations that we've been having within our group, our small group settings. Now's the time for a new person to come in, a new face, with new leadership qualities to help change the direction of where, you know, things could go based off the, you know, past experiences, based off of, you know, what's going on around us. So I definitely, you know, appreciate your time, and I appreciate, you know, just your insight. And, you know, as we said, you know, once the COVID restrictions open up, we want to do more community engagement.
Sure.
We want to get you out so that people can understand and identify who you are as a town manager, and, you know, just have those conversations with you based off the knowledge that they want to obtain. I mean, are we saying you're going to answer all the questions? Maybe not, probably not, but at the same time, you give people a honest and fair opinion based off what you bring to the table. And so those are the areas that we want to look at, and that's what these conversations want to bring out, is just, you know, knowing that, you know, at the end of the day, you can come and ask questions about, you know, what's next for the town of Mooresville, what's some of your strategic plans, what's some of the things that we want to incorporate in the police, fire, and other town departments, and just how we're going to diversify and bring an equal balance based off what's to come. So again, I appreciate you.